Hands often hold their grasp. Legs tend to stay beneath bodies. But slight moments of error cause some to trip or lose grip on a glass that then shatters. Blame is a slippery substance when error is the cause. My heart stopped. My breath stopped. My mind stopped when Isabel fell from my arms. We were 4 floors up. I didn't blink when she hit the tile. Blood splattered like a movie gag set to detonate. I could feel it crawling on my skin. I've read a lot of horror fiction over the years and have discovered it's not as popular with the ladies, whether it comes to reading or writing it. There are some famous horror stories out there written by women. We all know of Mary Shelley's awe-inspiring novel Frankenstein. Shirley Jackson penned the terrific The Haunting of Hill House, a subtle and atmospheric tale that details a woman's gradual possession by a haunted house. One of my personal favorite short stories is The New Mother by Lucy Clifford, a product of the Victorian era that feels like a nursery rhyme to remind children there are consequences for bad choices. However, that's about all I know when it comes to ladies of horror, and I wanted to find more, particularly of our modern time. That's when I stumbled upon this delightfully scary short story collection by W.B. Welch, Blood Drops. The collection contains stories of a variety of length and style. Some are 2 or 3 page snippets that feel like you're catching a quick glimpse of some frightening scene through a window, enough to make you gasp with unease. There are longer stories giving you a textured, deeper exploration, cutting to different character perspectives for a well-rounded perception of the experience. Some of the stories in the collection take on a supernatural or bizarrely monstrous angle. The story Siren portrays a woman who completes her seductive efforts by literally sucking all the guts out of men with her final kiss, which I think also takes on a strong metaphorical kick as well, as a many beautiful woman knocks the guts out of young men too, in the more figurative, instinctual sense. The story Love, Death depicts a pregnant woman who has been shot, and the figure of death literally enters her life and sweeps her off to oblivion. A lot of these stories with the more supernatural angle I enjoyed, and some of them just gave me a laugh, some of them did legitimately creep me out. But it's the other stories that take on a more realistic approach, evoking a more moving reaction that I felt were the highlight of the collection. The last story in the collection, titled The Girl in the Pink Coat, tells the story about how a family breaks down after one of the twins goes missing, and the meat of the story is about how this girl just feels hollowed out and broken without her other half, and the entire family begins to suffer. They begin to lose communication with one another. Everything just sort of breaks down, and I found it quite compelling how that story was portrayed until closure is finally provided in the ending. The story titled The Look probably stood out to me the most because of its narrative structure, which gives you a shifting perspective from character to character, beautifully seamed together. You learn how each character hurts because of the bad choices they make, choices that we all might want to make on the emotional level, although the head, the logical part of us, knows better. Blythe wants her love for Mark to go on, despite him being too old for her. Her young teenage idealism believes that her infatuation for Mark will conquer all. Mark, her lover, is drunk on the thrill of the sex he's getting and the teenage nostalgia from the experience, despite his better senses of realizing what he's doing is unlawful. It's the classic tale of head logic versus heart passion. How passion is a reckless and so often destructive thing. When Blythe's father attacks Mark in the climax, smashing in his ribs and face, you see the ugliest side of passion. Even the father regrets what he's done, despite Mark admitting how wrong he was. Every character ends up hurt in the end, all because they refused to obey their better senses and allowed their emotions to take control. Now, the collection does have its flaws. For instance, the story Mall Flood left me feeling simply disgusted and confused, as we get a one-page description of Laurie filming Max, who begins to stab people in a mall food court. Then the story ends. Okay, what the hell, right? The story titled Heart Problems started out so well. The beginning passages hooked me instantly. Quote, "The heart wants what the heart wants. Unfortunately, for me, I only feel alive when someone else is dying." End quote. How can you not want to read on after reading that? It's one of the best opening lines I've read in a while. I gobbled the story right down, only to feel underwhelmed and, well, wanting more. So the story depicts a young girl who is struggling with drug addict parents who lock her in a car for 2 days straight while her mother's on a drug binge, and she gets locked in the basement. All those things that are sort of ingredients towards making her into a serial killer. She grows up to one day meet the infamous serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. She basically wants to learn everything she can from him about how to disassemble a body and dispose of it. This is where the story fails to achieve on its potential. It needs more length. It would have been far better as a novel, I think. It needs more length to explore her interactions with Dahmer and how she develops. The interactions as they are feel really silly and just unconvincing. Trust me, when you read the scene where Jeffrey Dahmer attacks her and she pulls out a knife and he instantly backs away from her and he's in awe of the craftsmanship of this knife that she's wielding, you'll probably break down into giggles too. So overall, I'm going to give Blood Drops by W.B. Welch a 4 out of 5. I overall think it's a great collection. It displays great texture and truly strives to explore the darker side of the human emotions. And in the longer stories, it really does develop the characters, and you know, they feel human. You can relate to the emotions they feel, and it's believable within the construct of the plots and the conflict that they deal with. So overall, I really liked it, and I highly recommend you go out there and get it. And so that concludes the review for today. This is DeathGroundReviews, the monster that devours horror, suspense, and all those things of the fantastic. And this beast just had a delectable meal, so good night.